Joining me now is a UFC featherweight contender who's coming off a big first-round KO win over Ricardo Lamas in the co-main event of UFC on Fox 26 in Winnipeg, Manitoba last month. Now he's set to take on top contender Jeremy Stephens in the UFC on Fox 28 main event in Orlando, Florida, February 24th. We're coming up. We're about a month out. It is Josh Emmett back on the show. Josh, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on again.
For sure. Really appreciate the time. And before we talk any fighting, I know when we spoke in Winnipeg just a few days before the Lamas fight last month, you told me in January you were headed off to Italy to see your brother who's in the military, or I think you said he was just getting out of it at the time. How was your trip to Italy?
It was awesome. Yeah, he's been stationed overseas for 3 years. He's been in the military for 6 years, and he was actually getting out. So I promised him I'd come visit him before he got out, and it almost didn't happen. But I was glad that I got to keep that promise. And then my wife and I we flew out to Rome a week after the Winnipeg fight. We landed in Rome on Christmas Eve, and we worked our way up north. I got to go to my brother's award ceremony, and then he was with us the entire time in Italy, and we all flew back home from Milan, and yeah, so it was awesome. Definitely ate some of the best food, Italian food in my life, saw all the attractions we possibly could, and just had a blast. It was a trip of a lifetime.
It almost didn't happen. Why is that?
Just because with the time frame, we actually booked the trip in June, and then I was getting offered to fight January 14th or January 20th, and so I had to cancel the trip. But then since I got presented that Lamas fight, then I rebooked it. So that's why it wouldn't have happened if I didn't fight Lamas, because I was going to fight January 14th or January 20th day. And so I actually canceled it after we booked 6 months in advance, and then I got the Lamas fight, and I rebooked flights, everything.
Right. We talked about that in the in-person interview, but it sounded when we talked in Winnipeg that it actually, obviously the timing was great, because as you just said now, you wouldn't have been able to do it if you didn't take the Lamas fight. But I was wondering if there was something else. But I guess rebooking hotels kind of troublesome sometimes.
Yeah, not at all a problem. Just glad I got to go out there and see my brother and see the base he lived at for a few years and make it to his award ceremony. So
for sure. So let's talk about the win over Lamas. Obviously, a lot of people counted you out. You were a big underdog, and you went in there and knocked him out in the first, and totally changing your career. You went from unranked, I think, to number 5. Now you're number 4 in the featherweight division. When did it sink in that you KO'd Lamas, and ultimately you were a top contender? You were in the title mix.
Man, I don't know. I guess it still hasn't sunk in. Nothing's changed for me. It feels like it was just another fight. I've been competing my whole life. I've been fighting for so long. I've had the hardest, toughest road to get to the UFC, and it was just another fight. Nothing's going to get to my head. It's just, I think I'm one of the best fighters in the world, and I finally just got to prove it to the casual fans and to everyone out there that didn't know who I was.
So I was going to ask you if you feel like your life has changed, but it sounds like that completely not.
Yeah, not at all. It hasn't changed. It'll be nice. I'll be getting a little better payday because, like we talked about before, I was a free agent when I got offered that Lamas fight, so I had a little more negotiating power. And after that win, we also had in the contract with Lamas, if I beat him, we rip up the contract and get a new contract. And so I just haven't signed yet, but I'm about to sign a new 6-fight deal with the UFC with some stipulations in there. So I'm pretty happy with it. And so that's the only thing that changed. The money's gonna be a little better for me, but other than that, same old Josh Emmett.
Right. How can you explain how much better is this contract compared to the one even you signed before the Lamas fight? The one where you had that, condition where if you beat him, you would rip it up, as you just said. You said it's a little bit better. Is it? I would have expected it to be quite a bit better. Is that not the case?
Well, when I got offered the Lamas fight, after doing the negotiating with my managers and Sean Shelby, they got a great deal for me, and it was. If I didn't get that fight, I would have just been on you can look up all the pay scale. I've been like a mediocre fighter, just, still not making a lot, but it was better. And then since that, it went up like another, I don't know, like 8 and 8 on each side. So it'll be good. Okay,
interesting. Well deserved, obviously. We have to quickly touch on, of course, you missing weight ahead of the Lamas fight. You took the fight on short notice, and you were fighting at lightweight for the first few fights in your UFC career. Dropped down to featherweight the fight before this, and on short notice, I mean, it seems to be understandable. Going forward, is there anything you can do to prevent it from happening again, or is it simply just don't take these short notice fights?
Yeah, it's just simply I will not take a fight under 3 weeks, 3 weeks or under. 4 weeks would maybe be kind of pushing it, but I could do it. With this one, the fight's 5 weeks from today, so I've been back in the gym once I got back from Italy, and I'll make weight. I'm actually right now. I woke up right now 5 weeks out. I weigh as much as I did going into fight week in Poland and Winnipeg.
Oh wow,
so, that's five
crazy.
Weeks out. But I cut like 20, 22 pounds during fight week, so it's super tough. And I'm gonna change things up just a little this time. But yeah, I'm still doing the exact same thing. But I will make weight. I'll prove everyone wrong again that says I'm not going to make weight. It was just that short notice fight that it was tough. I still lost 31 pounds in 3 weeks, and I was 2.5 pounds shy. But like I also said, I don't know if I told you before, when I fought Lamas, because they weigh us in right before we fight as well, I was actually lighter for the Lamas fight than I was for the Arantes fight when I made weight. Wow. I fought in the octagon when I fought Felipe Arantes. I was like 68.5. When I fought Lamas, I was 65.
Okay. So you went up 20 pounds, and that's not even, I mean, that's quite a bit of weight, if we have to be honest, but it's not, we've seen bigger jumps in weight from weigh-in day to fight day.
Yeah.
Do you plan on hiring a nutritionist? Do you want to work with one sort of on the day-to-day regularly, or no?
Oh, no, I actually have one I've been working with for 4 years. It's Dr. Trong out of, Folsom, California. He owns his own, it's his Reset clinic. He's just a phenomenal guy. I do everything he does, and it works out to the T. And he has his PhD in nutrition. He's also an MD, and he has 4 different board certifications. So he's definitely overqualified. So yeah, I'm sticking to the same old stuff. Everything that has got me there, and everything's been working out. So I won't be changing anything up. He was also he was scared though when I told him I'm taking that Lamas fight. He knew. So it had nothing to do with him at all. He knew my weight at the time. He was just really on the fence, like just concerned and saying that's a lot of weight to lose in 3 weeks. And, but I told him, I said, it's a huge opportunity. I have to take this. And, he was with me. We did everything we possibly could. We were close, but it was my fault. I take full responsibility for that. And it had nothing to do with him. He didn't want me to do it, but I had to do it.
I think an interesting way to look at this is if you were to do this all over again, if we go back 2 months, you're put in the same shoes, you're unranked, you're on the come up, but you have this big opportunity. I would imagine you'd do it again, even if you knew you're going to miss weight, say a month from then. It's still, the difference between like weighing how much you went up in the rankings and improved your stock and rose your stock compared to you just missing weight. I feel like there's a lot more pros than cons.
Oh, of course. And yeah, I do it again, hands down. There's no doubt. And even when I got offered that Ortega fight, even I literally thought I was going to fight, because I just came off that win. I was like thinking maybe I'll fight late April, maybe May, maybe even June. And then I got offered that Ortega fight, main event, title eliminator on this UFC on Fox 28 card. I had to take it. Like, me personally, I don't turn down fights. I never have. And opportunities like it's either like now or never for me. So that's the way I look at it. Like, I feel like, you're playing poker. I'm going all in. like when I get something like this, or I believe in something, and it's going to get me that much closer to my ultimate goal, and it's going to raise my stock that much higher. So I'm all in, you know, and that's how I feel with fighting.
So you wanted to fight Brian Ortega. You were offered the fight from the UFC, as you just said, for the Orlando card. The one you're on now, just different opponent. He turned the fight down ultimately. He also, I mean, I don't know if this would make you feel any better, but he also said no to Jeremy Stephens as well after Stephens called him out after his Doo Ho Choi win. And so he's waiting for the title shot against the winner of Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar coming up in March. Are you bummed about that? Were you really wanting that fight? I know you really wanted it, but like Stephens, do you look at that? Hey, it's second best option. How bummed are you that Ortega didn't want to fight?
No, the only thing that I'm not really bummed about it. I think Jeremy Stephens is a tougher opponent. He's a veteran of the sport, been in the UFC for over 11 years. He's a pioneer. He just had his 27th UFC fight. That guy has more knockouts than I have fights, you know, so it's going to be, he's fought the who's who at 55 and 45, and, you know, he knocked out the former lightweight champion, RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, and RDA is about to fight for the welterweight title, you know, and then he's fought Frankie, he's fought Max, they couldn't finish him, he's fought Cerrone, Pettit, just everybody, you know, so he's definitely someone that I knew I would fight when I dropped to 45. And I knew it was just a matter of time because Stephens and it's a dangerous fight for both of us. I feel like this is going to be my toughest fight to date. I feel that it's going to be the most, as far as styles go, I feel like it's going to be like I'm going to be fighting myself. So I wouldn't want to do that, but here we go, you know. So it's going to be crazy, and it is the fight the fans want to see. It's going to be like a complete, people just want to see a slugfest. And I said the other day, we're going to find out who the hardest hitting featherweight is come February 24th. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity. I'm looking forward to going out there and putting on another hell of a performance and shutting up all those people that say I still don't belong there. So I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to fight. I'm going to be entertaining, and I'm going to shut everyone up. But as far as the Ortega fight, that is the fight that I wanted, I campaigned for, and it's the fight that Dana White, Sean Shelby, and the UFC brass wanted because he was next in line for the title shot. I came out the very next weekend and did what I did to Lamas, so I impressed the hell out of them. So Dana White is the one that wanted that fight. He was going to promote it, main event, title eliminator. The winner of this fight gets the winner of Holloway Edgar the very next weekend. You know, it would leeway right into their fight. And so that's why I really wanted that fight. So if I was going to be bummed, it would be because, you know, I was one fight away from getting a title shot. But other than that, I think this is going to be stylistically, Stephens and I fighting is going to, man, not only fight of the night, we're going to get fight of the year.
Do you feel like now with the Stephens fight, you are not only one fight away, maybe two fights away from a title shot?
With the Stephens fight, I go out there, I perform well, I finish him. I think I'm the number one contender. I still think I'm next in line for the title because I'm not going to sit on the sideline. I want to just be, you know, I want to stay active, and you know, I understand what Ortega's doing. If I put myself in his shoes, you know, I was frustrated when I first, you know, got the news that he didn't take the fight, but then I think about it, I totally understand. He's still young, he's still developing, he's the next big thing. It's like he can sit on the side for a little bit, and since he has more stock, maybe they go with him. You know what I mean?
Does he deserve a title shot?
No, I don't.
No.
I think I really think he's waiting and he's hoping for that. And he even said, I saw an interview, he said he's going to sit and wait. He's going to be training. He thinks he deserves the next shot. If he doesn't get it, then he'll go back to work and see what he has to do to get that title shot. And I think eventually we'll end up fighting. He's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. He's undefeated for a reason. He has, slick jiu-jitsu. He's probably one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the featherweight division. And he has good boxing as well. And he's long and he knows how to use his reach. But I really think, depending on the performance that happens, in 5 weeks with Stevens and I think with a big win, I think I'm next in line for a title shot.
You would pass over Ortega. I feel like maybe now. Do you think that because you're turning yourself into a company man, you took the Lamas fight when Jose Aldo was pulled from it to fight Holloway, and then now you're taking this fight, and you're not getting a huge camp for this. You're not getting a 8-week camp for this fight. You're getting about 5 to 6 weeks or so to fight Stevens. It's a main event. You're not wanting to sit on the sidelines. Do you think that sort of gives the UFC more of a reason to give you a next title shot with a win over Stevens instead of Ortega?
I kind of think so, but you never know. There's so much politics in everything, and especially this. So I guess I just have to go out there, do my job, and then sit back and kind of see what happens. But I will fight for the title, if it's not next, then maybe I fight another fight, then I get the title shot. But I will be a world champion, and I'm gonna keep on doing it. And I've been a company man. There's so many fights that when I was fighting at 55 that Shelby and Joe Silva offered me on like 2-3 week notice, and I took these fights too. But the person they were looking
your
for
debut.
fight, that. But then I'm saying, but Pio, I took these other fights, and
right.
they didn't want to fight me, as well. And I took my debut on 4-day notice in the Netherlands. I hopped on a plane and flew across the world to fight somebody. So I've never said no. As soon as they offer me the fight, sometimes I don't even know who the people are. My managers, what do you think about this? Let's do it. And then I go watch some of their film. But the majority of the people, I know who everyone is.
What did you make of Jeremy Stevens' win over Doo Ho Choi less than a week ago?
It was impressive. I watched the fight, and I had a feeling, like I said, when I went to featherweight, I knew Jeremy Stevens and I would fight eventually. I just had a feeling since I wasn't getting that Ortega fight, and then behind me was Cub and Lamas, and then it goes like Choi and Stevens were fighting. I knew. I said, watch, the UFC is going to offer me the winner of this fight, and that's exactly what happened. I didn't know it was going to be this soon because when I wasn't getting the Ortega fight, Shelby said there's no one else for me to fight, because then those guys are fighting this weekend, and then it's Elkins, and I'm not going to fight my teammate. There's no one else for me to fight in the top 10. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to fight in April or May again. And then I got a call from my managers on, I think it was Tuesday night, and they said, hey, what do you think about the Stevens fight? I said, yeah, let's do it. When would this be? And they said that February card still. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So if it was 3 weeks out, no, but 4 weeks, I'm still taking it. 5 weeks, yeah, it was 5.5 weeks out. I'm taking it. It's going to be, like I said, a risky fight. It's going to be a fun fight for the fans and entertaining as hell. So, I don't think the UFC can deny me with the big win over Stevens because he's battle-tested. That guy's, like I said, fought the who's who. He's one of the toughest guys in the sport. He's been in the UFC for over 11 years. It's crazy, and he's younger than I am.
Yeah, I think that's crazy that he's younger than you. Just because, just looking at how you made your debut in 2016, I think it was, right? And so he's been around forever.
May 8, 2016, yeah. And I grew up watching him fight. I loved watching him fight. Because he's exciting, and that's why I think it's going to be cool to fight someone that I grew up just kind of watching. And that's how it is with everybody, or a lot of the guys that are still in it. Like, I'm a fan of the sport. I've been a fan for a long time. So now, like, I could potentially fight these guys. It's kind of crazy, it's like surreal. And then it's nuts.
What are your thoughts on headlining your first UFC card? Do you look at this? It's on Big Fox. You're going to get a lot of big audience. Do you look at this and think it's finally paying off?
Yeah, no, I definitely. I'm grateful for just kind of the path, and I think we talked about this before. It's like I've had such a hard road to get to where I'm at, and I've seen everyone get there, and other people not from my team, but like just people that fight in the UFC, that how the UFC builds them up, and you know what I mean. I was just like, man, and I knew that my time would come if I just kept working hard, chipping away at it, and now talking like 10, 11 years later. I'm finally here, and I still I'm not where I want to be, but the hard work is definitely paying off. Coming from such a great team, Team Alpha Male, all the coaches, the training partners, Uriah Faber, he's a great mentor, and man, it's awesome. So I'm happy about how everything's turned out, and it's going to be that much sweeter when I get to the top because I did everything on my own. I busted my ass so hard and nobody knows. And now people are finally getting to see that. And it would have been nice if I was built up or I got in the UFC a long time ago. But man, it's like, I feel like I'm truly self-made. Like no one's done this but myself, and it's gonna pay off and feel that much better.
And I know 5 rounds won't really be an issue, taking 2 more rounds if it goes that far, because you've had 5-round fights in your career before as the West Coast champion.
Yeah, and so I fought 5-round fights, and that's nothing. I feel like I'm kind of a slow starter, so I feel like, towards the end of the second, the third round is when I can really start to pick it up. And then, come the 4th, 5th, I got my second win. I'm ready to go. I could go like 10 rounds, and so that won't be an issue. I've trained for several 5-round fights, fought a few, and so in fighting regionally at West Coast Fighting Championship, where I was their champion, I was always the co-main event. I was always the main event. I had the most people in the crowd. I sold the most tickets. So Brandon Ware, he was the president of the organization. He did a great job of the way he ran that company because it was so professional. And I've said this before as well. It's like he did everything that the UFC did, but it was on a smaller platform. Obviously, it wasn't on as big of a platform, but I did press conferences. I did media days. They did like day in the life. I did literally everything. So it prepared me for where I'm at in the UFC. So I like doing all this stuff and doing the interviews. I got to do the Fox booth last time I fought. I got to do just tons of interviews that I didn't really get to do before when I was just winning in the UFC. So it's no different to me. The fight's the same thing. The interviews are all the same thing. The cameras. I enjoy it. And as far as the fans go, I feed off the energy of the fans. So I love like when they're loud. I love when it's, tons of people. That doesn't bother me at all. I've performed my entire life in front of huge crowds. And so I enjoy it. So it would be awesome to fight in like a soccer arena one day with like 80 to 100,000 fans in there.
Well, UFC on Fox 28, you're taking on Jeremy Stephens in the main event February 24th in Orlando, Florida. Josh, really appreciate the time as always. Last question for you. Prediction, how do you get the job done?
Just like I say, man, a fight's a fight. I'm never really sure how I'm going to get the win, but I will get my hand raised. That's for sure. I'll be 14-1, and I will be fighting for the title next.
Alrighty, before I let you go, remind my audience where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
My Twitter and Instagram handle is Josh Emmett UFC, and that's JoshEmmett UFC, and then I have a Facebook page as well, just Josh Emmett, a fan page.